Welcome to the Business Success Strategies with Adrienne McLean. This is a 30-minute interview with successful business people who have been able to achieve amazing results with growing a business. Business Success Strategies is proudly sponsored by The Speaker's Practice and AdrienneMcLean.com, helping business owners with marketing and promotions with a specialty with public speaking. Enjoy today's Business Success Strategies interview.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we're showcasing Denise Archie, who's a clinical hypnotherapist, speaker, facilitator and leadership coach. Denise is the CEO of Coaching College, a multi-award-winning company based in Sydney offering game-changing solutions with coaching, mentoring and leadership development programs for your workplace culture. Coaching College's unique delivery model for leadership and management development programs creates real and sustainable results with life-changing experiences for all participants. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you, Adrienne. Thank you for setting all this up and for arranging all of this. And we'd like to start with an acknowledgement to country, where we acknowledge elders past, present and future, and that are responsible, as we all are, for the water and the land and the sky. And one of the things that I guess for me, as working within the Indigenous community, is the profoundness that they have for family, for land, and for also the recognition that they're seeking to really stand as equal partners across Australia. So one of the things in today is to look at what is actually goal setting. And one of the things that we want to understand is, of course, that we make decisions any time in our life. So for each of you, thank you for making the decision to join us today. And one of the things that we want to look at is what are some of the important things for you to create the life you want to live and accomplish whatever you intend to accomplish. And so really, like all our programs, it's very practical. So yes, you'll have some activities to do today as well, and looking at some of the exercises that we have in place that will assist you in creating those goals. For many people, when they are setting a goal, even the word sometimes doesn't create excitement, because if they look back in their life, then what happens, of course, is that they've probably set lots of goals that they've never achieved. And so if you were to imagine, for some people, the word goal has a real heaviness. And so we want to look at some strategies, if that's your particular focus around goal, is that how do you actually move past that? So today is really practical in understanding how we set goals and what do we need the first thing to be able to make goals. So, of course, before we can even make goals, we have to understand how do we make decisions. And often we don't talk about our own decision-making strategies when we're setting goals. It doesn't seem to align. However, we recognise it's really important. So today I want to give you 4 concepts around decision-making. And one of those is around how do you do reframes. So if you have some pen and paper there, you might like to write down these 3 reframes that will assist you throughout today's session. The first reframe is up until now. So if you want to make a note of that, up until now. The second reframe is in the past. The second reframe is in the past. And the third reframe is yet. And the importance of these reframes is that it gives your brain almost like a metaphorical and also metaphysical line in the sand. So whereas we're starting to look at our own decision making, what we want to do is frame that with perhaps up until now. So in the chat, could you put on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being 5 being fantastic, about how you believe your decision making skills are? So decision making means that you really, you're really clear, you've got a process, you understand how you make decisions, whether it be for buying something, whether it be for doing business decisions, personal decisions, on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being 5 being fantastic. where would you rate your own personal decision-making skills? I'll just wait for you to put that in the chat. Thank you, Evie.
It's 4.
4. And Lisa, I'll be interested to know yours. More. Okay, Lisa 4 as well. Fantastic. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll look at what does 4 mean as we're moving through each today. So up until now, you consider that your decision-making skills are 4 out of 5. 5 being that you make decisions and you can hold your space, and regardless of whether they were useful or not useful. We don't talk about good and bad because that's a judgment. What we're talking about is how useful is it for us to move ourselves forward in terms of our motivation, or how it's not useful. How resourceful are we, or how fully resourced we are, and how sometimes we might feel under-resourced. We want to look at our comfort zone, and we know that when we're in our comfort zone that we actually sit very comfortably, and that's actually not where we learn things because we're very comfortable. So I'd like you to all fold your arms as you normally would, please. And I can't really see you, so I'm just assuming that you are. So folding your arms as you normally would. And Adrienne, if you'd like to also do that, just so that you're part of it, that'd be great.
Taking notes.
Oh, okay.
There we go, sorry.
Folding your arms. Okay, now for each of you, fold them the other way. So what do you notice? In the chat, you notice about folding your arms the other way. Was it comfortable or not so comfortable? Was it easy, not so easy? What did you notice? And of course, once you fold them, uncomfortable. Thanks, Adrienne. Lisa, Evie, how did you find them? Can't do it. Up until now, Lisa, up until now. So what we're looking at today is what has us comfortable and what has us uncomfortable. And now, of course, when we are in an uncomfortable state, that's really our learning zone. Our learning zone is our ability to learn and to, great, thank you, is to learn and to take on board some of the information that we are learning. We don't really talk about change in our organization. We talk about learning because, of course, once you learn, guess what? Change happens. So if you are a leader or a manager of a group of people, often we say we have to change this. And sometimes people will actually feel quite defensive because what happens is they feel that they are doing something wrong and they personally need to change. And that's why we talk about learning. So just some simple languaging we're going to look at today about how you can actually assist your own team to set goals as well as yourself, and also to assist them in decision making. And then we move into our growth zone. So what are some of the things that we are going to put into practice for today? Okay, so when we start to think about our own learning, and for some of you may be familiar with the learning gradient, and on the left there, we've got our comfort zone, our fear zone, our learning zone, and our growth zone. And what we like to say is the most powerful voice I have is what I say to myself and I believe. So each belief system impacts our decision making, which then, of course, in turn impacts our goal setting. So let me take you through this graph. If you put in a little chat there, whether you've seen the learning, understand the learning gradient, and whether you understand the learning cycle or the learning steps, if you're familiar with this model here. Can I just get a bit of an indication, please, as to who's familiar with the understanding of a learning gradient and also how we actually go about learning? All these things assist with our decision making and our goal setting. Some of you may be familiar with the steps to learning. Some of you may not be as familiar with what we refer to as the learning gradient. Okay, great. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Adrienne. So just to recap, what happens is when we're going into a situation such as today, often we have an unconscious competence. So we don't really know anything that we don't know what we're aware of. We don't know. This is often sometimes our untapped potential. If you're thinking about the Johari window, this is sort of the things that are hidden from us. often in our unconscious, and then often we have an incompetence about it because we don't know what we don't know yet. And then, of course, we go through the next phase where we're consciously incompetent, and this is where we're learning. This is our learning phase. So if you were to practice folding your arms the other way, you would actually, whilst some of you put uncomfortable, you would have a conscious incompetence. So you will feel consciously incompetent around up until now, folding your arms the other way. Once you practiced enough, of course, then you'd be consciously competent, and then you would be folding your arms either way without even thinking about it, which is your unconscious competence. And then, of course, the learning gradient, if we are learning something and the learning gradient is too steep, then people will fall off and they will lose interest. If the learning gradient isn't steep enough and people are staying with what they already know, then what happens, of course, again, they'll fall off because it doesn't interest them. So when we're looking at decision making, which is the underpin for goal setting, we need to have the foundation of how we go about learning. And that's why we put this in. It's really important. When we start to think about our fear, often that can be that manifests itself into the behaviors of procrastination. Sometimes it can manifest itself into making those decisions. Sometimes we can feel a little bit fearful. Are we doing the right thing? Does it feel right? All of the modalities that we need to check in with ourselves about to move us into our learning zone. And then, of course, to take on the growth around that learning. What we have is a goal setting made simple toolkit that I have personally created. Wait, I just happen to have it here. And so it comes with a vision board. It comes with stickers that you put on your vision board. And it comes with a daily diary and journal. So these are the 8 aspects of your life that we're looking at today, that you'll start to put in some goals and some decisions around some of these things. So if in the kit there are some questions that you can answer, however, we'll take a slightly different tack today and start to look at it from one of those areas that you can decide on. So when we talk about our self and well-being, this is where we're saying, right, what are some of the aspects of ourself that we need to consider? So what are some of the things that are important for you right now and over the next, let's say, 3 months, that's important for you around your self and well-being? So on your piece of paper, just write self and well-being. And if you've got everything in place, then just put a tick. If there's an aspect that you might want to consider, maybe a more regular fitness regime, maybe it may be your health, well-being, whatever it is, yourself. If that's something that's important to you, just put a little number there as to where you are right here, right now. 1 being, oh, I don't really do much self-care, to 5, yep, got that handled. So just put a number somewhere there. You don't need to share if you don't wish to. Okay, next one, home and family. So where is that? Is that working really well for you? Do you need to put some more fun into your home and family life? Is there some more fun that might need to go into your self and well-being? I take a learning on every year. So for me this year, I'm doing amateur theatre. And so I joined the group last year, and yeah, I wish we could chat too, Lisa. Okay. I joined an amateur theatre group last year. It's been hilarious because no one can decide which one act play we're going to use. So we've turned up every Tuesday for 6 weeks. The producer is like this world-renowned person. She's amazing. And she keeps bringing a play, and the other people go, no, I don't really like. So anyway, we're on a bit of a holiday at the moment, so we'll start again in February. So I was telling a friend of mine, and he goes, you know, that could be a play in itself. I said, yes, actually it could be, because it's quite hilarious. So what is it that you're doing for yourself? What are some things that you do for your family? So in our family, we have twice a year, all of us go on a holiday. So that's, you know, my 3 sons, their wives, and their children. And we go twice a year. And so that's something that's really important. And what do you do in your home and family that you would like to do that perhaps up until now that's not in place? That may be, you know, one. So if it's ideal as to everything's working exactly as you wanted, that would be a 5, or anywhere between a 1, not working at all, to a 5. Yeah. Now, in terms of your business, if you're in business or are employed, so it's within the business, and then your aspect of career, where is that right now? Where is that around business and career? So business, does it mean that you could be doing things a little bit more effectively? Could it be that you are really not really in a job that makes your heart sing, but, you know, you're going through the motions? Or is it that you're in a position where it makes your heart sing, and however, you might want to think about, well, I want to stay in this career, or, you know, is there a change? So think about your business, think about career. So you're actually looking at, up until now, 6 different aspects and just a number against those. And we'll share that in a moment. And community and spirituality. So what involvement do you have in your community? So I've always done community work. I've always encouraged my children to do community, and which they do, and be involved. So community is very important. Spirituality may be from a religious perspective, or it may be, you know, the spiritual, your spiritual being or belief. So put that in, again, 1 being not a lot, to 5. There are so many, you know, different aspects of community that perhaps you're already involved in. That's the love jobs. I call them love jobs for the community. So you turn up, you work really hard, and you just leave your love there on the table. Because there ain't no love in the bank account. Okay, so that's one of the aspects. So if I could just have a bit of a understanding. Oh, great, Evie. So 5 for business, 2 for self-care. So terrific. So you might stay with self-care as we're going into this decision-making, and we'll come to that. So if everyone would like to just pop that in. So this may be also familiar to you. As a clinical hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner, it's really important that there's an understanding about what's called the internal representational system. So how you internally represent your information. So for some of you, it'll be visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or digital auditory. Now, if you were to close your eyes, and I invite you all to close your eyes right at the moment, and imagine you're at the beach, what do you see? Do you see what's your major modality? Do you actually see the surf, the water? Do you actually hear the waves crashing? Do you have the, you know, sand between your toes? Like, what's the strongest one for you? Anyone like to share?
Visual.
Yeah, so you see it, okay?
Yeah, visual.
Yep.
But
okay.
given all the, you know, digital world, like digital as well now is creeping.
Auditory digital. That means, do you talk, like that's talking to yourself?
Oh, is it? Oh, no.
Yeah, auditory digital, and auditory is hearing the sounds outside. Auditory digital. So, you know, those people that you might think is a bit odd, and they'll talk to themselves aloud. They're not like, they're normal. They're not one of those on the other spectrum. However, that's auditory digital. So I'm an auditory digital. So I'll play things in my head and talk. And when I'm reading, and this is another clue, when I'm reading, I actually read aloud in my head.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so that's auditory digital.
Yeah, no, I'm visual.
Visual.
But I did become auditory digital during COVID.
Evie's saying
she's visual. Okay, so when I close my eyes, I see nothing. It's black in there. All right, I don't have visual clues. So when I'm making decisions, or I'm going to buy something, if someone says to me, "So do you see what I mean?" I go, "No." However, I've internalized it to have a sense of it. So the languaging becomes important. I'm not elaborating on this because that's another whole workshop. I'm introducing it because it's important to process for our decision making. Yeah? Yep. Okay. So just be aware of where you are right now. So eliciting your decision making is important because what your eyes do, it's like the mouse on a computer. It will access that information. So police will use this in terms of noticing where people's eyes go up and down, whether they're recalling information or whether they're constructing information. So constructing means imagining into the future, or imagining the sounds that they might hear, or accessing feelings. Remembering is the internal dialogue. Now, remember that the AI or internal dialogue or auditory digital only happens when you're recalling. It doesn't happen when you're constructing that information, because you won't know what's really going on. Whereas when you're recalling, you can actually have a memory of that recall. So where your eyes go will tell a lot about where you make decisions. And so, okay, so I'd like to give you 2 examples of a buying strategy. I'll just get to that in a sec. What I'd like you to do is to write down something that you bought recently, something significant, right? What's something significant that you bought recently? So it might be a pair of shoes, anything sort of, you know, $200 and more I'd say significant. So just write down what it was. So Lisa's busy thinking. She's had so many purchases lately. So we'll just think about perhaps a recent, have you purchased something significant recently?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay, terrific. So it can be the last few months. It doesn't have to be just, you know, yesterday. Okay. So I'd like to take you through, there's 2 examples. So this is the first one is a very detailed example. And the second one is a short example, simply because these are the way that they process or make decisions, yeah? Okay. So, Dennis, his strategy was to visualize it using whatever it is. Then what he did, he started to go to himself, do I really need it? He wanted to talk himself into it or out of it. When I was doing retail and people were sort of, you know, deciding whether they were going to buy it, I used to say, do you want me to talk you into it or do you want me to talk you out of it? And so often we'll do that without even realizing. And if you're shopping with a friend, you might do that as well. You know, do you want me to talk you into it or out of it? And so sometimes people might take on, this dentist took on some research. So he went and did some investigation about pricing and looked at those comparisons. Then he decided he needed to go and ask opinions. So if I'm going, you know, clothes shopping, I take my 2 fashion consultants with me because I can never decide. And so it's like when I go to a restaurant, one of my friends will say, look, she's very fussy. I go, no, I'm selective. She'll never order anything off the menu. And a couple of years ago, my friends took me for dinner and the condition was I had to order off the menu and not send it back if it was cold. That was so traumatic. And I said, it's my birthday. It's supposed to be my pleasure. It was so traumatic. And so this dentist goes and asks for, you know, other opinion. Then he'll go and get some external auditory, so he'll hear what they have to say. And then for him, his modality is it must feel right. Now, sometimes things might have to feel right for you. That a modality of feeling right for me sometimes occurs. It's not something that is regular for me. But however, if I'm walking in a shop, you know how sometimes parents might have said to kids, don't touch? Well, that's a really strong kinesthetic. And so for some kids, they get the messages, and adults as well, they can walk into a shop and have to touch things, even though they're not going to buy it, because that's how they get the message of what it is. So our kinesthetic is very strong for us. And then the internal dialogue for Dennis is, where do I want to buy this? And then I consider some of the internal, maybe I could, you know, order it online, or et cetera, and then feel right and then buy. So if you look at all of those things that Dennis did before he made a decision. Now, we're going to take you through your steps about what you did in a moment. I want to give you a different example. So Beverly, she says, yep, looks great. She tries it on, feels good, and off she goes and buys it. So that's her buying decision. So everybody has a different way, whether it be buying or making decisions. It's the same thing because you're using that modality. So I'd like you to decide whether you're going to look at it from the thing that you most recently purchased. And then what we're going to do, there's 2 parts to this. I'd like you to first look at the recently purchased, and then we're going to map it. It's called mapping. Then we're going to map it across to your goal setting, because you've already made a decision. We want to understand how you made it, and then how you can actually use those strategies to make more effective decision making and decisions for yourself, particularly around your goals. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions before I move into this next section? Okay. So it becomes your choice and your decision. So we're going to look at our goal, decide on one of those as well. So we need that sort of parallel. So we're going to discover the sequence and thoughts and behaviors so that we can map this into how you can then use this for your goal setting. So if you are up until now a procrastinator, then what happens, of course, is this will assist you in making things move along a little bit more and understand why at times you might procrastinate. Yeah. Okay. So let's remember this experience. So the experience you want to model is all around what's called NLP, neuro-linguistic, because neuro-linguistic is around modeling. It's modeling success. So you already know how to make a decision because you've made one to buy whatever it was you wanted to buy. So I work a lot with women who are impacted by domestic violence. And I was working with a group of women, and one of the ladies said to me, and by this time, you've got to understand, I have a very warped sense of humour, and I have worked with these people for a while. So, you know, these women sort of knew me. Knew me. And so one of the things that was important in all of this is that she said, oh, you know, I'm not very good I can't make decisions. So I said in a very straight face to her, and she's a woman in probably late 40s. And I said straight face to her, so who dressed you this morning? And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, you said to me you can't make decisions. So I'm just wondering who dressed you this morning. Anyway, of course, she burst out laughing because that's a good state change. And then I said, you see, you can already make decisions. We've just got to understand how you go about making them, because that will assist you with everything else. So often people don't recognize that they're making decisions all the time. And so what we want to do is give them confidence. So what you're working with when you're asking your team to set their goals, you are getting them to work with their level of confidence. Level of confidence so that you then can have them move more confidently into goal setting. Yeah. Okay. So decision you were happy with. I'd like you to think about it now. What process did you go through? So before you actually made that decision to buy, can you step yourself back? So just make some notes around it or share what happened to you. So relief, is there a...
Useful.
Useful. Yeah. Okay, terrific. Thank you. Lovely. All right. So now just start to have a look at where that is around your business. So your business and your self-care, take the same strategy. So when you think about business or you're thinking about self-care, what's the emotion that comes up for you initially? So now have a think about when you think about self-care or when you think about business, when you're talking about actions, what you're talking about is what's holding you, what's your struggle, and then moving through that. So one of the things that we've created for people to move into action is our kit, which is our vision board, and then the day-to-day diary where you answer questions. And when you've answered the questions, you put your sticker on the vision board, which then, of course, use your reticulating activating system, and it will help you locate what it is you're wanting. So this is my one here. So when I did this, I wanted to do a bit more exercise and yoga. So I'm going on a retreat next week to do yoga. So when you're weekly, doing more swimming, joining the choir, which I did last year. So these are some of the things that remind me of what for today. I'm happy to offer a 6-week coaching program, which is normally $6,000. Only today is $4,000, which includes the vision cards, which working with the guys will help you as well as the full kit. And if you wanted to read up a little bit more about what I've said today about fulfillment and contentment around goal setting, in Adrienne book just released, Think Bigger, Grow and Succeed, there's a chapter in there where I'm interviewed.
Yes.
And so I recommend you to get that from Amazon, hot off the press. Okay. So I thank you, everybody, for coming along today. Thank you, Adrienne, for setting this up. Fantastic. Adrienne, your observation.
Look, I think it's wonderful, Denise. It's very interesting to actually have the concept of mapping through how you make your decisions. And that is a really... it's really interesting how we make our decisions and what could be impacting on us moving forward by our decision making. So we might not be getting ahead because we're making these the decisions that aren't in our best interest. So I think that's really, really valuable, and putting some thought into how we make our decisions is it's almost essential, really. So
and people don't even think about it. So when I'm working with managers or leaders, and I'll ask them, how do you make your decisions? And they go, oh, I don't know. And it's like, it's really important that you understand it, because if you don't understand how you make decisions for yourself, how then can you work with the team to make their decisions? So, Lisa, those people who are indecisive, they need to understand their own decision-making process, because often it can be a lack of confidence. And so when they've made a decision and they know, because of their value system, that they've got to be held to it, often people will put off making a decision because they don't want to be held to it in case it's wrong.
Yeah. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Thanks, Adrienne. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks,
everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.